that it's a skill. Writing a good philosophy paper is a skill, and you can get better at it. And consequently, most of you will get better at it. And so let me make the following remark. Look, officially, each paper, you have 3 5-page papers, each paper is worth 25% of your grade. Officially. But the remaining 25% is discussion section. I'll get to that in a minute. Officially, 25% of your grade for each of the 3 papers. But if over the course of the semester you get better, then we will give, at the end of the semester, when we're figuring out your semester grade, we'll give the later, stronger papers more than their official weight. For many of you, the first paper will be clearly the worst paper you write. And then we'll just throw that grade away. Give greater weight to the second and third paper. If the third paper is stronger still, we'll give even more weight to the third paper. There's no formula here. A great deal depends on the overall pattern, what your TA tells me about how you've done over the course of the semester. But this policy of giving greater weight if you show improvement is something that most of you will benefit from. And so if you end up not doing well, the moral of the story is not to go running off and dropping the class, but to figure out what you did right, what you didn't do right, how to make the second paper better, and then the third paper stronger again. And if you do show improvement, that will very significantly influence and emerge in terms of the impact it has on your overall semester grade. Because of this policy, I don't actually know when all is said and done, whether at the end of the semester I'm any harder, whether I depart from the average or not. Let me quickly mention, here's a fairly typical grade distribution for the overall grades of this at the end of the semester. Roughly 25% of you are likely to end up with some kind of an A at the end of the semester. 55% of you or so are likely to end up with some kind of a B. 25% of you might end up with some sort of a C. Sometimes there's a couple of percent that end up worse than that. Unsurprisingly, you've got the ability to do decent work in this class, and most of you have the ability to do good work, and some of you have, a fair chunk of you have the ability to do excellent work, though it may take some work on your part to get to that point. The last thing I should say about the grades is, look, why do I do this? It's really, I try to do it as a sign of respect for you. I know that may seem like a surprising thing to say when I've just sort of gone on my little gleeful manner about how I'm going to fail all of you, but I mean, it's worth my saying, you guys are so smart. You're so talented. You've gotten so far on your ability that many of you have learned to coast. And it's not doing you any kind of service to let you continue coasting. My goal here is to be honest with you, right? Say, look, you're smart enough, probably most of you, to pull off some sort of B without breaking into a sweat, at least not a significant sweat. So be it. But it's just lying to you to pretend that that's excellence in philosophy. And so what I want to do in this class is be honest with you and tell you, you've really done work here to be extraordinarily proud of yourself, versus, yeah, you've done something okay, or, look, you've done good work. Admittedly, it's not great, but you've done good work. All right, that's 75% of your grade is the papers. The remaining 25% of your grade is based on discussion section. Now, that's a lot of your grade to turn on discussion section, and so the first thing I need to tell you is, I really mean it. If you blow off discussion section, your grade will suffer. So it's worth knowing in a general way, what do you need to do to earn a good grade in discussion section? And here the answer is, perhaps the obvious one, you need to participate. You need to come to discussion sections having thought about the lectures, having done the readings, having thought about the questions that they raise, and you need to come to discussion section then prepared to discuss this week's set of issues. You need to listen to what your classmates are saying and say why you disagree with them. And not just that you disagree with them, but to raise an objection. Or why you agree with them. And when somebody else then attacks them and say, look, I think that what John was saying was a good point, and here's how I think he should have defended his position, or what have you. You need to engage in philosophical discussion. If you're not participating in discussion section, you're not doing what the section is there for. Philosophers love to talk, and we love to argue, and the way to get better at thinking about philosophy is by talking about philosophy. And so I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm saying, look, yeah, that's an important part of the class, so important that it's going to be worth 25% of your grade. Again, it doesn't mean, this is slightly different from the papers, it doesn't mean that you've got to be brilliant philosophically to get an A. Rather, you've got to be a wonderful class citizen to get an A for discussion sections. And so, as I put it, in fact, I think I put it this way in the syllabus, sort of participation, and here I mean sort of, respectful participation, not hogging the limelight, but participation can improve your grade, but it won't lower your grade. Non-participation, or not being there, that will lower your participation grade. Again, any questions about any of that? All right, so I'm sorry to have sort of the long gloom and doom, but it seems that it's only fair to sort of let you know what you're getting into. One other remark about the discussion sections. The way I think of it is like the conversation hour for your foreign language class. How many of you have had a philosophy class before? Thanks. Maybe 15% of you, maybe 20% of you. Most of you have not. Right? That's pretty normal, right? Don't go into discussion section thinking, oh, I can't talk, I don't have any background in philosophy, I've never done this sort of thing before. That's true for most of you. The way you get better is by talking philosophy. All right. Next remark. I guess this is sort of just one last connection with regard to grades. This is an intro philosophy class. The crucial point about intro is it means first class in philosophy. It doesn't presuppose any background in philosophy. It doesn't necessarily mean easy. Some of this material for some of you is going to be very, very difficult. And although the number of pages that you'll have to read are not, there's not a lot. Probably in a typical week, 50 pages, maybe less. It's, for many of you, you've got to find it dense material. And although, I don't really have the fantasy that many of you will read this stuff twice, if you had the time to do it, that would be a wonderful thing to do. Philosophy is hard stuff to read. Other remark about this being an intro class is that it's introductory in that the issues that we're talking about are a kind of first run-through. Every single thing that we discuss here could be pursued at greater depth. So, for example, we'll spend whatever it is, maybe a week and a half, talking about the nature of personal identity, 2 weeks, but one could easily spend an entire semester thinking about that question alone. So don't come away thinking that whatever it is that we've talked about here in lecture is the last word on the subject. Rather, it's something more like first words. Actually, one other word about the readings and the lectures. With one exception, I won't be spending very much time talking about the readings. The exception is Plato, where I'll spend a lecture, maybe 2 lectures, trying to reconstruct Plato's central arguments, at least the arguments relevant to our class. We'll be reading one of Plato's dialogues. But for the most part, although I'll occasionally, periodically, refer to the readings, I won't spend a lot of time talking about the views in the readings. The readings you should think of as complementary to my lectures. The idea is that there's more to say than what I've said, and you'll find some more of what there is to say in the readings. Or there may be positions that I mention but I don't develop because I'm not perhaps sympathetic to them, and you might find somebody who is sympathetic to them, developing them in the readings. The readings are a crucial component of the class. You won't get everything you need simply by coming to the lectures. But it's equally the case that the views that I'll be developing in the lectures are, although not necessarily unique to me, aren't all laid out in the readings. You won't get everything I'm talking about in the lectures if all you do is the readings. They're both parts of the class.